name is Skylar Morgan, and today I will be talking about Neoclassic Theater. During the 17th century, France was involved in many wars, such as the 30 Years' War that began in 1618 and ended in 1648. The next war was the Fronde, which was a series of civil wars in France. They began in 1648 and ended in 1653. Next was the 9 Years' War. It began in 1688 and ended in 1697. During this time, the public needed something to get their minds off the wars, so French Neoclassic Theater was invented. I'm going to start off by talking about the most famous playwrights. Jean Racine, Pierre Corneille, and Jean-Baptiste Poquelin, more commonly known by his stage name Molière, were three well-known playwrights. Molière, however, became the most well-known because of his plays, which they called comedies of manner. Some of these include The Affected Ladies and The Imaginary Invalid. The plays themselves were inspired by ancient Greece and Rome, and they even followed Aristotle's principles. The plays had one setting, one story, and the action was limited to 24 hours. These plays generally had 5 acts and were either comedies or tragedies. The comedies ended happily, whereas the tragedies had to end in death. Many playwrights would provide a loose outline of a plot, and actors were expected to improvise and fill in gaps. This mostly occurred in comedies. The next slide shows us pictures of the first theater built in 1641, called the Burgundy Hotel. This was where most of Molière's plays were performed. The theater was long and narrow with a stage on one end. It had space in front of the stage for men to stand, called the portiere. There were many seats on the sides of the theater, although most of the audience would sit on the stage itself. In these plays, they wanted the audience to lose themselves in the drama. This is why they designed a lush backdrop to provide an illusion of depth and perception. The elaborate staging, lighting, sound, and special effects heighten the mood and message of each scene. The theater known as the French Comedy was another famous theater built in Paris in the 17th century. The picture on the bottom right shows what the theater looks like today. There were a couple of rules that characters had to follow. Everyone was required to act proper, and all actions had to be true to life, so no supernatural events were allowed. The good, virtuous people were rewarded, and the evil sinners were punished accordingly. By doing this, the audience was enlightened, educated, and amused. The comedic characters had to be middle or lower class, and the hero in the tragedy was always noble. Although the costumes in Neoclassic theater changed over time, they were all similar in many ways. The fantastical style of the costume related directly to the contemporary fashion. Women wore dresses with drape lines similar to those of the Greeks, and the dresses had trains that were picked up and carried. Women also often carried long scarves or shawls that were made out of rich fabric like cashmere. The outfits were usually completed with headpieces. Men, on the other hand, wore big costumes that had a lot of volume. They used neutral pants called breeches that would stop at the knee or ankle. They also used waistcoats that were layered with colorful tailcoats. Most of these costumes were made out of woolen fabric. The ultimate purpose of these plays were to provide entertainment and a moral teaching to the audience.